Everett, and offensive lineman Gabe Jackson. Now, I get it. The Seahawks are spending a lot of money, but to me, it's kind of all for naught. It's kind of like the dude that goes to the club and spends all the money on a section but still leaves without a number, because it's become abundantly clear the Seahawks no longer know how to win in the postseason. I'm not talking about these regular season wins. Obviously, the Seahawks can do that. And they can do that better than really any other teams in the National Football League. But in the postseason, last 5 playoff appearances, the Seahawks are 1-4. Keep in mind, that one win they got, it was over the Philadelphia Eagles because Carson Wentz got knocked out of the game by a cheap shot, particularly a cheap shot if you're an Eagles fan. So I get it. They're giving Russell Wilson weapons. I get it. They're giving Russell Wilson receivers. I get it. They're letting Russell Wilson cook. But the fact of the matter is, it's kind of like things started to change over generations when parents started to become friends instead of parents. The Seahawks might be friendly to Russell Wilson, but they're not necessarily doing what's in his best interest as it comes to postseason wins. I don't necessarily believe in the Seahawks, but I got to bring in Bucky Brooks and my guy, Super Bowl champ, Torrey Smith. Because, Bucky, I'm going to ask you first, why should Russell Wilson believe in the Seahawks?
I mean, I don't want to take over the segment, but I would say if I'm the Seahawks, why should the Seahawks believe in Russell Wilson? Because Russell Wilson has changed the game. Russell Wilson is now Hollywood, and he has changed how the Seattle Seahawks go about their business. Because when Russell Wilson was the friendly Russ that said, "Go Hawks" at the end of every interview, it was about the team. It was about us, the we, all that. Now it's about me and how I want to go about doing it. And maybe the 12s have him gassed up, thinking that he needs to cook. But when we see him cook, I told you, Acho, he's burning the mills. And so if he's burning the mills, I got to close up the food truck. And so when I look at the Seattle Seahawks with Pete Carroll knows, hey, we have a recipe for winning that stood the test of time. We talk about Russell Wilson and all the wins that he's accumulated. It's because he's been a game manager on a team that is really a machine. Run game, defense, they do that, it works. Less of Russ is better. And so when I think about this offseason and Russ pointing the finger at his teammates, his offensive line, talking about he's getting hit too much, and all of these other things that he says he wants to do, my question would be to Pete Carroll, are you sure you got the right guy? Are you sure you got the right guy that can lead you to the promised land? Because this Russ right now, the one that's wearing the ballet boots and the nice suits, that ain't the one that showed up from Wisconsin. That would be my question.
Okay, now look, Bucky Brooks, I got a script. What's the script? What's the script for his television? We gonna go there. He went there, Torrey Smith. We going there. We here now. Torrey, let's talk Russell Wilson. Let's do it. Do you believe that Russell Wilson should be the guy in Seattle? I'm not talking about his talent. We get he's talented. But do you think that the Seahawks can win with Russell Wilson, knowing everything that comes with Russell Wilson's now ego?
Yeah, they can win with Russell Wilson. I mean, he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. That's not a question. Russ has all the control in this situation. Does Russ want to be there? Because as a player, and you alluded to it earlier, your love and your support is shown by what?
That money.
Your money. And Russell Wilson has been treated like a king all of these years when his time has come to get paid. Now, he sounds like a lot of people do, myself included, when you feel like you've been kicked down, you're abused, you're down. He's tired of getting hit. The man is tired of getting hit. Protect him. That's all he's asking for is a little bit of help. Because sometimes when we're in our feelings, our emotions, we don't really know how to communicate that the right way. We may be a little more passive-aggressive, right? We might say things like, okay, I like this situation, but I wouldn't be mad if I could go to X, Y, and Z, right? I like living in Seattle, but I wouldn't be mad going to Dallas or Chicago. Passive-aggressive things come out when your emotions aren't in check. And that's what we saw to Russell Wilson. But the reality of it is, if you protect him, this team can win right now.
Time out. Torrey Smith, you won not 1 but 2 Super Bowls. You did so with a straight-up pocket passer, and then you won the Super Bowl with the pocket passer, but you got to the Super Bowl with a quarterback who was running a lot at the time, a quarterback in Carson Wentz. You were there. You were in the game. Los Angeles Rams. I believe it was Los Angeles at the time. In L.A., Carson Wentz is scrambling, trying to dive, do a little too much to get a touchdown, and boom, there goes his knee, his MCL, his ACL, his LCL. He was trying to do too much. So is it Russell Wilson's fault that he's getting hit too much? Because Flacco never got hurt or never worried about getting hurt, but Carson Wentz, the other quarterback that helped lead you to a Super Bowl, did get hurt, and it wasn't on the offensive line. It was on Wentz. You played with 2 Super Bowl quarterbacks. You played with 2 Super Bowl teams. Is it Russell Wilson's fault he getting hit too much?
Yeah, I'll say this on behalf of all the linemen in America who may be watching this. A lot of those sacks are his fault. It's not all on the offensive line. So we have to be honest about that because Russ's style, right? What makes Russ great is his ability to extend plays. What hurts the team at times is his ability to extend plays because sometimes you trust it too much. But the reality of it is, again, you're talking about a top 5 quarterback, a guy who is the tractor that has been carrying this team and has that ability. This isn't the same team that when they had that Legion of Boom, they had that type of leadership where it was mixed. Russ, and I may even say his ego was a little bit smaller then. Now, he's the guy. And if it's going to be done his way, I feel like as a team, you have to just make sure he's protected. Russell Wilson is one of the best men that I've ever met,
Facts.
period. On the field, off the field, whatever. So if he's unhappy, there's something to be said for it. But he's also the right guy to fix the situation, which is why this offseason, I wasn't comfortable saying he's going to leave. He's a guy that this situation can be salvaged, and he can lead this team the right way.
Tori, I'm going to get back to you in a second, but Bucky, here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to allow you to kick dust up and then just scurry off. Okay, you kicked up a lot of dust, and I'm not going to let you run off, so I got to bring you back into this conversation. If Pete Carroll and the Seahawks can't trust Russell Wilson, then what do you submit that the Seahawks should do if they want to get back to Super Bowl winning ways?
Okay, so here's what the Seattle Seahawks need to do. They need to understand what Russ is, and I think they do understand it. See, what has been lost, no one is listening to what Pete Carroll said at the end of the season. He said at the end of the season, I am tired of cover 2. Because at the end of the year, in the last 8 games, cover 2, 2 deep safeties, hard cornering, jamming and rerouting DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, and forcing Russ to play what? On schedule. Russ is not a on-schedule quarterback. And so what Pete Carroll has said, we need to run the football because what happens when we run the football? It drops clear lanes to throw on the outside to DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, who excel at the vertical part of the passing game. And so they are actually trying to help Russ by giving him a script. And so let's go to the offensive coordinator because they brought in a new offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, coming from where? The L.A. Rams. The Rams run a version or a variation of what Kyle Shanahan does in San Francisco. Run game, exotic bootlegs and play action, big shots, easy reads and throws for the quarterback. What they're doing, they're trying to make the game easy for Russ. So Russ is saying, oh, I want more. And they're like, Russ, that's not for you. We do this, we set you up. And so it's a philosophical difference in how this should be approached. But the Seahawks want him. But Russ has to comply and understand who he is. And sometimes he can't see who he is because he's Hollywood Russ, not old Russ.
Hollywood Russ. Coming back to you, though, Tori, because I need you to give me one conclusive final thought. Russell Wilson, you said, is a top 5 quarterback. I agree with you on that. But he's a top 5 quarterback because he's allowed to show his abilities and be a top 5 quarterback. He's a top 5 quarterback because they've since opened up the playbook at around year 4 or 5 for Russell Wilson and allowed him to grow into being a top 5 quarterback. So if you are management for the Seahawks, would you let Russ cook, satisfy your quarterback, allow him to blossom, allow him to be just as talented as he has the potential to be? Or would you go back to the traditional ways that had early success? Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, Russ, throw the ball 20 to 25 times a game, and let's see if we can win humbly. Tori, your thoughts?
I think it's about balance because there's room for both, right? As a team, you want a team that's not relying on the passing game. You go out there, if Russ is forced to throw for over 5,000 yards a year, Seattle will not win the Super Bowl. You need that type of balance, whereas now, Russ, you're handing it off. There may be a game because they want to commit to the run, right? You want to eat up the clock. You want to control the game. You want to open things up for Russ on the back end because he throws the best deep ball in the league. And that's tough because I love Aaron Rodgers' deep passes like anyone else, but there's no one that throws a deep ball like Russell Wilson, and that all works when you're able to run the ball. The biggest thing is, again, protect them, and I feel like we wouldn't be in this situation because now it's not just about stats. He's complaining about being hit. So now if you say, okay, now, Russ, we're protecting you, if he complains again, then it's about, no, I do want the ball more. I do want this control. But the reality of it is You want to know that you have a guy like Russell Wilson that can go out there and win the game for you throwing the ball, but you don't want to be forced to throw the ball to win the game, because we've seen what happens to teams that can only win and they have to rely on the passing game. You need that balance. That's not what made Seattle great just a few years ago. That balance is what's key, and they need to get back to that.
Success for the Seahawks, success in life. It's all about balance. Coming up, Dak Prescott is leading the charge in Dallas.